Hey gang, I just want to touch base with you a little bit earlier here in week 4 since I didn't get a week 3 video in to you guys. I was laid out last week with a terrible plague. It felt like Edgar Allan Poe's Mask of the Red Death just moved from room to room through our house. Took out both my kids, took out my wife, took out me. It even got the dog. The dog! He was laid out. But I'm happy to say that we have all made successful recoveries, including the dog, who's making that noise out of pleasure. Hush, what are you doing? I don't know if I showed you guys our new dog. We just adopted a dog last week. Come here, puppy. Come here. This is him. Look at that, Alex. Yeah. Alright, yeah. His name is Alex, and he is a sweetie. A lot of personality. Cool guy. Anyway, yeah, he got here on the scene just long enough to get sick with the stomach bug that we were all having, and so he's a survivor. Anyway, I hope you guys are all doing well, and I just wanted to kind of touch base about some things that I've been noticing as I've been reviewing your drafts and discussion posts and things like that. So I will just sort of move through my list here. Discussion posts. You want to make sure that you meet that length requirement for the discussion posts. Overall, I do see that, but sometimes they get a little on the short side. So just make sure that you're reading each of those criteria very carefully for the discussion posts and then answering each one. It's really helpful for me and maybe for students as well when those of you who use the headers from the prompts themselves and then copy and paste those into the discussion post and then answer them. I think that's great because it allows you to make sure you're focusing on what's required for each discussion post, and it allows me to easily see how you've organized your thoughts. But you're not required to do that. Just a pro tip if you need a little bit of extra help, kind of, figuring out what's required out of each discussion post. So, and if you are doing discussion posts later, if you miss the date for a given week's posts, again, I may have already said this, but make sure that you do respond to your peers. Even though the discussion may have already happened, it's still important that you engage in that peer response process, both for the benefit of your peers and for yourself, because the rubric that I use to grade takes off quite a bit of points if you don't respond to peers. So you may think you're doing great by submitting a really detailed response, and you may think like, what's the point of responding to my peers because it was already late anyway. But rest assured, if you don't, it deducts too many points. Not worth it. So just make sure you respond to peers. Make sure that if you are discussing stuff from the text and ideas and concepts from our text or from any of the stories that we've looked at in essays, that you cite those with in-text citation, both in the text and in a references section at the end. Just getting in that practice with APA research documentation. And that's also something you'll want to do for your final essay. Now, I realize your final essay is a personal narrative essay, so you may not have anything that you need to cite per se, but if there is something that you weren't born knowing, cite it, by all means. If you weren't born knowing it, cite it. And that's what that section that we looked at last week about integrating research and integrating quotes is all about, is just getting you aware that with very few exceptions in academic writing, you always cite outside information and where it came from, at least once per paragraph. But again, this is a personal narrative essay, so you may not have anything that you need to just cite anyway. Just some food for thought. Now, as far as the draft itself, I know I've talked for a little while now about approach to building this essay, and one way to do that is to think of it like you're building a house. And just as you build a house with blueprints and with materials, so it is that you build an essay in much the same way. I mean, you wouldn't just start building a house by getting all your stuff together and then throwing it in a pile and then just kind of seeing what happened and starting off maybe with, you know, a closet or maybe the bathroom or something. You know, it's planned out, it's plotted out. And so in this case, with an academic composition, your foundation, your house foundation, is your research and your resources. Now, for this particular essay, that's not as nearly as applicable, but in future essays that you write, it will be. So just bear that in mind. In this analogy, the foundations for any good research paper are good research. Is good research. And good resources. So, then comes your introduction. Your introduction is like your entryway into a home. And that's the thing that will either beckon your readers in so that they want to read more, or scare the heck out of them and make them back away. You know, that's where they open the door and they either go inside and they look around and they say, like, wow, look at this place, this is great. Or they open it up and it looks like a house from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and they're like, backing away. And so that's what your introduction does. That's your opportunity to grab your reader, to get those hooks in there, and then bring that reader into a very clearly defined thesis statement that lays out what is going to come in your paper in the order that it's going to come in. Kind of like how sometimes maybe in like a house, an entryway gives you a view into the way the rest of the house opens up. When it's a pleasant entryway, you walk in and it affords you a view of, you know, a main interior hallway, or you know, you see the interior of the house from the entryway, and that is much the same when writing a paper. Those are my kids, and I think they're making some squealing noises. Hey guys! Hush! I'm recording a video! Sounds like somebody's killing a cat up there. Sorry about that. Alright, so we've talked foundation, we've talked entryway. Let's talk sizes of the rooms. Because just like a house has rooms plotted out into equal sizes that make sense, so should your paper also do something similar. You know, for example, in a home you wouldn't have a master bedroom that was the size of a tiny closet, and then this like giant shoe closet that's the size of, you know, the whole downstairs. Oh, well, maybe some people would, but not everybody. For the most part, things are measured out in portions that are appropriate for their purpose. And that is the same thing when writing a paper. So as you're crafting this final narrative essay, think about each of your subtopics, which are each of those areas that you plan on addressing within the paper, and then make sure that you're devoting equal time to each of them. And that can help you meet that length requirement too, because maybe when you go back and you're doing reading and revising, you notice like, oh, okay, I only talked for a little bit about this subtopic, but I talked for a long time about this. So maybe by beefing up one area, you can get to the length requirement more easily, or you can also just find the sense of balance into what you're creating. And then finally, your conclusion. Now, in the house analogy, the conclusion is sort of hard to figure out. It's either the roof or the back door, but either way, it's the last thing. So, like, you know, when you're building a house, the roof is the last thing you put on. Puts the top on everything, keeps the rain out, keeps everybody dry and happy. Or if you're moving through a house, then you've gone through the whole place and toured it, and then you're popping out the back door. I still haven't figured out which one I like better for my little analogy there, but the conclusion is either the roof or the back door. And in both cases, you want it to be good. You want your roof to be dry, and you want your back door to you know, be there and not be hanging off the hinges. So similarly, your conclusion should bring your reader back around to that first point that you made, while also offering sort of a final conclusive thought that just says, you know, hey, I get it. You know, I took you on this journey. At the beginning, I told you how I was going to take you on a journey through my life and at these various stages, and now we have. And this is what I've learned in my X amount of years, or from this experience. You know, that it doesn't have to be profound. It just has to be sort of a conclusive thought that the reader goes like, okay, closure. You know, like the final scene of a movie when when things are panning out or they're fading to black. That sort of sense of closure. Okay, well, this is a longer video than I meant to make it, so I will maybe post another video about grammar stuff later on in the week or early next week. I don't want to flood you with too many videos and announcements and stuff, but the one thing I do want to drive home that's really, really important is that this draft that you did for this last week does not have to be your only draft that you submit before the final. You can submit as many drafts to me via email as you'd like, and we can work on it all the way up until the deadline for that final paper. So don't think this was just your one shot for feedback from me, and you just have to take whatever I give you on feedback for that draft and hope that you change it correctly for the end. That's not the case. Make the changes that you want, shoot me an email with another attachment of another draft. I'll make more comments on it, send it back to you, and we can keep doing that all the way up until the very last minute if we need to. And, of course, as always, feel free to shoot me a text, phone call, email, Skype, Western Union Telegram. I will always strive to make sure that I get back to you within 24 hours. Sometimes my work phone is a little wonky and it doesn't show me when somebody calls right away, and I have a dead spot in the house, and then like a day later I'll see a missed call or a voicemail. But rest assured, as soon as I hear from you or I see that you've tried to get a hold of me, I will get back a hold of you. And if you don't hear back from me within 24 hours, hit me up again. You will never be bugging me. This is my job. I love it. I'm here to help you. So hit me up. Alright guys, have a great week, and let me know how I can help.